And we are live, Believe Nation. Happy Tuesday. Tuesday is my YouTube day, so I spend the whole day working on my YouTube channels. We got a lot of channels, we got a lot of work to do every Tuesday. In the morning, I typically work on strategy and scheduling and design and layout and just thinking work. And then in the afternoon, I spend the time working on actually recording the content. We woke up super early today. My wife had an acupuncture appointment this morning, so we woke up super early. So I got an actual jump, head start. I love it. You know the days when you get that extra head start on your work, and I got it. I got all of it done. I got all the recording done already, which is fantastic. And now in the afternoon, I got some bonus time, which I'm going to spend after this. This is my break. This is my transition from one task to the other. After this, I'm going to be recording. I got to record some new ads and kind of some other stuff that's been on my plate that I haven't made the time for, and now all of a sudden I have the time for. So we're gonna do it. Now I'm gonna bring you guys a super special guest. I don't see him live here in the chat yet. So until he gets here, let's get to some quick questions. If you guys have a question for me, pop it down below in the chat, and I'll do my best to go through and answer, give you some value. Hopefully, good to see you, Evan. Welcome. The None of Your Business podcast. All right. I love it. Welcome aboard. Love ACU. All right. Appreciate that. Hey, I'm taking notes. Let's go. Good luck. All right. Give me some. Let's go. LOL. We got lots of love happening here. If you got a quick question, pop it down below. Oh, I see. Hold on. I see my special guest here in the chat. Let's bring him in. Let's invite him in. Where are we going here? You guys are going to really enjoy this one. Where is he here? Let's go. Let's bring him in here. Okay. Mark, sending you. Looking forward to having a great conversation. And there he is.
Got it.
How you doing?
I am wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm great. So, ladies and
I've
gentlemen, we
watched
have
tens of hours of you so far. How's that?
Yeah, that looks good. We've got a legend in the house. This is an IG Live interview, which we're also going to post to the YouTube channel. Mark Victor Hansen, well known obviously for his Chicken Soup for the Soul series, but also has a new book out called Ask, and he calls it The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. There it is. I love the colors too, the purple and the yellow. It just pops so hard, and it's about asking. It's about asking people for help. It's about not trying to do everything yourself. And tell me why this book right now.
Well, what happens is my wife and I have traveled, as you know, to 80 countries and talked to 7 million people. And we meet great people, wonderful people, educated people, professional people, but basically they don't go to their full destiny because they lack the ability to ask, whether that was thwarted in childhood or during the educational system or in business, saying, who do you think you are, asking me, or in military or whatever it is. So what we decided to do is write everything we knew about asking. And then we checked it all out at Harvard and Stanford and Cambridge. And then we interviewed the 26 best askers we know. And all of them come back to the same thing, saying you've got to know how to ask. And it seems so simple. It seems so easy, but it's profound. And like yesterday, we got 121 letters from people saying they've read it. It came out April 28th, and they've had transformational experiences. So forgive me for saying it, but I think I got lightning in a bottle for a second time in my life. And I think, our Chicken Soup sold 500 million. I think I'll sell 500 million more in this series. How's that?
Well, I love it. Now, I think a lot of people who are givers, who are caring, who are, heart-centric, who are trying to bring value, feel like asking is, whether it's selfish, whether it's icky, or whether it's just, they feel super uncomfortable doing it because they feel that it's not right. So, but then they never get their goals and they never get the help that they need. So what would you tell the giver who is struggling to ask for help?
First of all, I love the question. And I did write a little book called The Miracle of Giving, or The Miracle of Tithing. And I say, first of all, there are 4 T's to it: thinking, time, talent, and treasures. And no philanthropy. And the reason I've sold more books than anybody alive, I think, is because we tithe in every one of our books, starting from the beginning. And so that opens up the windows of heaven, as you know, that old cliche in Malachi. The point is that all of us got to learn how to give. And what's happened with Ask, we're saying you got 3 forms of giving: ask yourself, ask others, ask God. And what's happening is that people are finding out, hey, wait a second, I can really find illumination, insight, and find out who I really am at the core of my being. And especially during this sequestration period, what's happened is that, you know, our corporate symbol is a butterfly. I think you know that, and I've looked at my stuff, just like I looked at all your stuff. And what happens is you can't look at a caterpillar and predict butterfly, and we're all in this wonderful cocoon. It's not so wonderful at a lot of levels, a lockdown of 8 billion of us. But out of that, we're going to have the greatest breakthroughs I predict in human history. How's that?
I love it. Now, people are already asking in the live chat, where's the best place to get the book?
Well, thank you, everybody. I'd ask you to go to Amazon and get it, or and then once you got it, get a buddy, which is what your real question is, that you can test asking. Like, you know, have you ever been in any of my seminars live in the old days?
No.
Okay, because Tony Robbins and I ran the biggest seminars, but we're back. We're coming back. The seminars are starting to open up. We're getting hired in Nevada and Florida again, and it's sort of a mind blower to me. But the point is, we say buddy up, get two people together and go through every question in the book so you find your transformation, because the subtitle of the book, like you just read it, is The Bridge from Your Dreams to Your Destiny. And I believe, and I'd love to hear your response, because you've interviewed and done the 10 points of your own and everybody else. Don't you think everybody has a great destiny?
100%.
And the point is that's why, by the way, I'm getting goosebumps, which for me is corroboration of truth. One of the 7 things, discernments, Dr. Canfield and I came up with, Jack. The point is, if you have a destiny and you're alive, you still got a destiny. And what happens is so many people are being sequestered and they're having life force energy squished out of them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah.
So what happens is that we're saying, hey, look, buddy up with somebody, get a copy, ask, and then go through every question, because Socrates said to you and I and everyone, you know, the unexamined life is not worth living. So why not examine it? Why not figure out, you know, ask yourself, who am I and what am I supposed to do and what is my right livelihood? Like, my right livelihood is, you know, being I'm right now world's best-selling author. I haven't sold 500 million books, but I want to sell 1 billion, which, by the way, you know my critics, and you know the critics of all the people you've interviewed and done. Everybody says people can't do stuff. And then what do? We go out and do it, right?
Absolutely. I love it.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, it's so exciting. Like, I'll just do the quick aside right now. As everyone said, well, you don't understand, I can't work because of blah, blah. And I said, look, one of my heroes who I've never met is Elon Musk, who you've done stuff with. And Musk, what did he do? He got shut down. So he calls up 3M and said, hey, you can't make these ventilators fast enough. I'll make them. I got 3D printing. I got metal. I got engineers. But he kept making cars, so he made 90,000 cars, became the #1 car guy in the world during a time technically he's supposed to be shut down. In other words, those of us that learn the principles that you so eloquently teach, distill, and share, if the people will get them and get them viscerally, like your word is belief, my word is destiny. But the point is that once you've got that, you become a transcendent human being, right? If you ask God, your soul transcends, and you get to pull off stuff that nobody else can pull off.
I agree. I mean, so earlier this year, I was in Puerto Rico. Brendan Burchard invited me to his event with all of his friends to do a little mastermind. And I spent the week before with him. And just before we started the mastermind, he said, Evan, you've given so much to my audience and on stages that here I need to make sure that you ask for something. Because I don't want you to spend these 4 days with all these leaders and you're just giving and you don't come away with something for you as well. And that really kind of, I was kind of nerve wracking, because there's people who sold companies for billions of dollars and you know, people who I look up to and respect, and to ask was very scary. And sometimes most of the time I got a yes, but sometimes I got a no too. Sometimes they said, no, I can't help you with that. And it wasn't that bad, you know, like,
but you're no worse off, are you?
No.
I mean, did it hurt your heart or soul when they said no?
I thought it would be a lot worse. You know, like I had this, I guess, mental image in my head that, oh my God, I'm going to ask for something. They're going to think I'm whatever, a scam artist. They're just trying to take.
Or arrogant or whatever, right?
Yeah. And it wasn't that bad. It's like, no, I can't help you with that. It's like, okay. And it didn't impact our conversations. It didn't impact the rest of the sessions together. And so I was super grateful that Brendan took me aside before we started to say, hey, make sure that you ask. And as soon as I saw your book, it's like, oh my gosh, this is it now, you know, for the world, that you have to ask.
And by the way, wouldn't it be nice if everybody could ask and then move forward? And yes, we're all going to have some rejection. And Peter Guber, the guy who owns the Warriors and the Dodgers and 50 Academy Awards, is a dear friend of ours. And he said, Mark, I'm not dyslexic, but he said, you're so dyslexic, you think when people tell you no, it means on. And the point is, you know, when Jack and I wrote Chicken Soup, 144 publishers turned us down, which is unbelievable at some levels, even to me. But Jack said, oh, I don't know if we're going to do it. And our spouses at the time said, look, you guys got pink slips stacked up. What are you guys doing? Don't you get it? Nobody wants it. I said, no, the audience wants it. Everyone says, do you have those stories in a book? So we put them in a book, and obviously the rest is history. I mean, and luckily I've written 309 books. And all of what you were saying a minute ago, everyone's got to learn to ask. And we've got to overcome all the withholds in our own beingness to go ask.
What are some of the questions that you know, list of questions in the book? What do you think are some of the most important questions to start practicing first?
Okay, so let's go backwards just one step and say, hey, look, there's 7 withholds, right? And self-worth is it, and number 2 is fear, and number 3 is excusology, and number 4 is a disconnection, which unfortunately so many millennials, and we've got 5 kids and 6 grandkids, so we've got a lot of millennials right now, so I know it. They're spending so much screen time and missing out on the world. But the bigger questions you got to ask is the question all 3 questions: who, you know, ask yourself, ask other, ask God. But at that level of ask God, when Jack and I wanted the best title in our respective houses, he lived in Santa Barbara, California. I live now in Scottsdale, but at the time I lived in Newport Beach. We did 400 times mega best-selling title, mega best-selling title, mega best-selling title, mega best-selling title before we went to sleep. Jack calls me up at 2:58 in the morning. This is before cell phones. This is 1989. The whole house gets, you know, we thought something was wrong. And
Right.
Jack said, chicken soup. I said, for the soul. I said, we got it. And we both got goosebumps, so we knew we had it. So the point is, in answer to your question, the biggest question you can ask is, God, what's your destiny for me? And by the way, if God is not the word you can use, there are 367 words for God, right? Infinite intelligence, immutable beauty, or whatever you want to use, right? Total wisdom. But the point is, if you do it a couple hundred times, my wife, as you know, is a lot of things, but a clinical hypnotherapist, you go into the deeper resources of the mind, and the mind always has to answer. Now, it may not answer immediately. It may not answer like you expect, but it will answer. So if you say, what is my destiny? And you really go to the depth of your heart and soul, everyone has one. Like, let me ask you, what do you think your total destiny is?
I want to solve the world's biggest problem, which I believe to be people don't believe in themselves enough.
I know, and that's what you said this morning on your 10 things that I guess your wife and family gave you as a Christmas envelope, which I thought was if you're going to do something personal, that is nice, to do something so loving and so personal. And I would agree with you, and I would agree that the 4 billion people that are in poverty, without water, without food, without energy, and without education, which is one of my beliefs, is that we got to change that. And you and I are at the vanguard of that, right? You're either leading edge, cutting edge, dull edge, or trailing edge. And I'm saying those of the few of us, the 2 of us here that are leading edge, can get to everybody for the first time on the technology called smartphone. I won't use anybody's name. How's that?
Yeah, I love it. And we're here doing it here on an Instagram Live, going to a YouTube video too.
Yeah, but the point is, somebody in Swahili can listen, because they can do today with universal translate, as you know, they can take every word we do, and it's 98% accurate. That's close enough. We're not going to say anything so esoteric they can't get it, right? And so I'm saying you and I can get to the poorest of the poor, change their mindset, change their belief set, change their destiny set. I think I've covered the 3 things that you and I just talked about, and if I missed any, you add to it.
No, I love it. And your heroes are way more accessible than they ever used to be.
By the way, 100%. I mean, just in the old days, you and I, as famous as we quasi are in our respective dominions, probably couldn't get to Edison, right? And what I said in 1898, during the Depression, the first sequestration in America, 4 things came out of it. We got the Wright brothers, got everybody to fly. Right now, it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We got a guy create electricity named Edison. We got a guy create the automobile named Henry Ford, and we create the telephone. So out of these shutdowns, right, where you have silent time and you can really think and find out who you are, and like I see people from New Zealand and everywhere listening to us right now, and God bless. The point is, that couldn't happen back then. So nobody could get to anybody. But now when you and I, like, I'll just do me, and then I'll bet you'll agree. We've done I've always loved podcasts, and people listen to 7.5 hours a week right now, but the fact of the matter is that in one day, we are 2 in America, 1 in Canada, 1 in Israel, and 10 million people in Vietnam. And the reaction, because everyone's buying on Amazon, the book sales have gone through the roof. And if you told me in the old days, I would have said, let me go to the 20 best bookstores in America. But they're all bankrupt right now because the malls are closed. And by the way, I'm not laughing at that. I'm laughing at the inanity of a tragic, terrible situation that we shouldn't be in.
100%. And you know, book sales were actually on the decline, and then it started going up again because a lot of people were doing YouTube deals and selling books through YouTube.
And the people are going out of their way to, I'm thankful to say, to read some of my books. And then once they start reading me, you know, just like I expect you follow authors, like I've watched, I think 90% of your shows. I mean, I'm sure I missed some, but you know, I've watched a lot of them because if I am successful, then I want to stay successful, and your input determines your throughput and your output. Then you need to be listening to, you know, the 10 points you're making here, there, and everywhere. And everyone's got somebody that can be their mentor, even surrogately, meaning electronically, if they can't get to them physiologically.
Yeah, I call them aspirational mentors, but surrogate mentors can work too.
Well, by the way, aspirational works for me. I'm not going to argue that. The point is, you are where you are because of a lot of mentors. And what you just said, Brendan's one of my students in the old days. I was at Jacob Javits Center. We had like 60,000 people at one time. And, you know, because we were the book of the year and all that. And then we had a breakout session. I let him, the first talk he did on his golden ticket was with us. So I think the world of that kid, a young man. He's not a kid anymore.
Yeah. And in terms of looking up to your leaders, like Brendan, as an example, may not be taking on, you know, an intern so that you can go hang out with him all day long, but you can watch his videos and you can watch his Instagrams, you can see him on YouTube, and you can read his books and you can learn from him. You could be around your heroes every single day if you wanted to. You just got to go online to find them.
Yeah, and they're all there. And even some of the old timers, like in graduate school, I was with Dr. Buckminster Fuller for 7 years as a research assistant, Einstein's best student, arguably. And you know, today, all of his hours of tape that we made 50 years ago, some of my peers have put it online. So there, even some of the old timers you're getting to. And then the other thing is, we were interviewed by Adam Carolla, and he says he's doing documentaries now, and the documentaries are brilliant on stuff that you would never get to have a documentary on before, because there wasn't the bandwidth. But now, because of the internet, and I even argue against this if I'm wrong, but we have unlimited bandwidth. So good. You're not going to argue against it. So what happens is you got to really ask yourself, what is it you want? When I went bankrupt in 1974, you know, and I was sleeping out in front of another guy's room in a sleeping bag for 6 months in Hicksville, Long Island, New York, it finally dawned on me what I wanted to do. I wanted to talk to people that care about things that matter, that would make a life-changing difference. So I go to my 3 roommates in Hicksville, Long Island, New York, and I said, boy, I know this is a big question, you guys, but I want to ask you guys, is there anyone young that's talking that's not a celebrity, not a doctor, not a lawyer, not a famous person? Guys said, yeah, there's a kid a few years older than you out here in Hauppauge, and here's my ticket. I'm a real estate guy. Go out there. Well, I rushed the bankruptcy courts had taken everything but a little beat-up old Volkswagen. I go out to Hauppauge and listen to this guy mesmerize the audience, Chip Collins, for 3 hours. I go up to him at the end and I say, I'm Mark Victor Hansen. I'd like to buy you lunch if you'll teach me how to do the business. He said, kid, if you'll stay out of real estate, because I own the 5 boroughs here in New York, I'll teach you. But chance 1 in 1,000 you're going to make it. You ain't going to make it. I just want to tell you. So I don't think you should waste your time. I said, let me make that decision. He taught me what to do. Tony Robbins and I were talking at one big meeting we did together. And I said, only you and I did 1,000 meetings a year for the first 3 years. If I wasn't talking, I was selling little speeches to little insurance agencies, which were easy because they desperately needed training, and it was great battleground for me. And then they said, yeah, that story in a book. And I said, no, but I'm going to do it. So this book behind me, right behind the top of my head, that yellow that says Stand Up, Speak Out, and Win.
Yeah.
I self-printed it, and we sold 20,000 copies. I mean, the first year, I tripled my income. I went to, remember, this is 1974, so back then, $20,000, $10 each, 20,000 copies. I thought I'd died and gone to heaven. And I said, look, everybody, this isn't a New York Times bestseller. This isn't an international bestseller. It's not a national bestseller, but it's my bestseller. And I want autographs to you, your wife, your kids, and your dog if you have one.
I love it.
Every 20,000 people bought them. And what does that mean? Well, you got to ask yourself, others, and God. Well, I asked myself what I wanted to do, and it was my right livelihood. And then I wanted to be world's best-selling author, and that was my next right livelihood. But each of us have to have this evolving sense of destiny. and you got to figure out what you want, and it's got to be put in writing. And right now is a perfect time for us to do the self-interrogation, the self-inquiry, to say, hey, what is it I can do, and how is it I can do it, and how far can I go? Because it's the wrong time to live below your privilege, because the world needs us to come out of our cocoons and manifest at our highest, best, noblest, and most exciting.
I love it. Now the book is called Ask. It's the new one that's just out. We've been talking about a whole bunch of amazing things, but talking about the book again, can you walk me through the cover? Because when I see the cover, I think like magical is the word that comes to mind. I don't know what you were thinking when you're kind of designing that. Tell me about the cover and how you came up with it.
Well, by the way, first of all, thank you for that request. But the cover is mystical, and it's also got, because remember, one of my degrees is in synergetic energetic geometry, but it has the whole geometry of the universe in it, but it looks sort of like a Ferris wheel to somebody who doesn't know any better, or like an Ozai if you're down in Mexico. And then ask is such a profound question. We needed it to bounce off the shelves. And, I teach how to, I wrote a book called You Have a Book in You, because I want everyone to write their book and discover who they are. But this jumps off the bookshelf at 200 feet. And most people's covers are so dull and so boring and so non-visible, so they don't jump off stage. Because what we say is, look, in the book business, you want this face out in the window if you can get it. You want it at the cash register. You want it at the end aisle. I mean, I've learned all the tricks of the book business when the book business worked like the book business. But now the book business is called an Amazon business, because Amazon literally became the Earth's largest bookstore. And I'm the only guy that ever melted down Jeff Bezos, which I'm glad to tell you that story if you want. But the point is, because he said nobody can melt me and sell more than I can deliver. Well, that's not true, Jeff. Anyhow, so we can pull that off, can't we? So the point is, my wife came up with the cover idea, and then we had it finalized, and it is, forgive me for bragging, but it's miraculous. And at the very bottom is a bridge, which we call a bridge of destiny, which goes with the story that she wrote. We had the world's longest prologue. If you've studied my stuff, I say if you're going to do business or write books, you got to, number one, be unique. Number two, it's whatever it is, it's got to be transformational. Number three, it's got to be inevitable, that when they get it, they love it, they adore it, and they'll share it with all their friends and help you go forward with it. So thank you for adoring our cover. I got to tell you, of all the covers I've ever had, that is the best cover.
It pops instantly. I mean, as soon as when your team reached out and sent the graphic, oh my gosh, I love this book. And magical was just the word that came to mind now. It's like I couldn't put my finger on it, but I love it. I mean, studying design, and I do a lot with thumbnails for YouTube videos, because it's the same game. You need people to click on the video. You gotta win the click. And a thumbnail of a video is the same as the cover for the book. You could have the greatest book in the world, but if the cover sucks, it's going to be really hard to get people to pick it off the shelves or pick it off of Amazon and want to dive further. So, I really love that idea.
Well, perfect. Go ahead. You can do the next question. I just want to compliment you on that, because two things. Number one, you got to have a killer title that the audience emotively gets to, because everyone knows they are either really good at asking and they want to know how to get better, or they really suck at asking and then they want to learn how to ask. I've never said that before, but I think that's accurate. Those are the only two models that I can see in my head. Do you see anything different?
No, let's dive into that a little bit. So if somebody feels like they suck at asking, at asking, they've always sucked at asking, their parents sucked at asking, kind of the mindset of, I'm never going to get good at this. But they know they want more, and they know they need help, and they know they can't do it all on their own, but that this is like the single biggest thing that is blocking them from getting where they need to be is the ability to ask. So I suck at asking. Mark, what do I do?
Look, if you and I were neighbors, you're geographically up by my buddy Bob Proctor up there in Toronto, and he's one of my best friends, of course. But I would say, let's simulate this, and let's go through every question. But we have all the people we tested, because we believe testing, feedback is a breakfast of champions. Everybody we tested on that goes through this becomes a master asker. That's number one. Number two is that once you got the book, we're saying go to askthebookclub.com. We're having a free, once a month, we're meeting with everybody for free. We figured we want everyone to become masterful at asking, and if they got any questions on asking that they can't answer, we'll help reorient them or get them to the depth of their asking ability individually, collectively, and then for God or spirit. How's that?
And with that website again, was askthebookclub.com?
Yeah, askthebookclub.com is free to everybody, and we want everyone to do it. And then back to the second thing you said about the cover, You've got to have a great cover, but we need to dress well. We need to dress our websites well and our clicks well and our social media well. And so I am thankful. And then unless you tell me something different, we've never seen anyone integrate both purple, which is God's highest color, with pink and blazing it with sunshine coming out. Have you ever seen a cover like this before?
No.
Remember, I said you got to be unique. It's got to be transformational. And you go, well, look at that. Oh, wow. That's a guy who sold more books than anybody else. And his wife must be smarter than he is, which is really true. You got to interview her because she's wiser, smarter, and way more beautiful. And I'm thankful. I did well. Because, by the way, can I do that real quick?
What?
When I was divorced and desperate for the right woman, I wrote 260. I asked myself, what would be a perfect, ideal mate, a twin, a soulmate? And I wrote 267 things I'd like to have in my ideal person. And the woman I met and married is 267 out of 267. We have the same values: be monogamous, have our own business, love to travel, want to do the kind of thinking that we're doing here, which is, evolving, because you're either evolving or involving. And involving doesn't mean devolving, I should have said, right? Those are the two. The life world is has polar opposites, black and white, and right. And the point is that you and I either are growing or contracting. And you and I are in the business that we want to help everyone grow, because if somebody grows, everyone's better off. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, what we said is that somebody who makes $1 million employs directly and indirectly 10 people, and somebody who makes $1 billion employs 10,000 people. So we need more billionaires, not less, and we've never had more.
I love it. And the secret is to ask.
Yeah. And the point is, every one of us can ask. So can I do a great ask story that we have in the book?
Okay.
So you may know Jim Stovall, and if you haven't had him on your show, you got to have him. But Jim is going to be our superstar athlete. He's trained. He's fast. At 19 years old, he gets recruited by the NFL, the National Football League in America. They go in, and the doctor comes back with a coach shaking his head and said, "Kid, I'm sorry, but you're going to be totally permanently blind in 6 months. Nothing we can do about it." Well, now he's self-incarcerated in a little 9x12 room, and he's got a telephone, a television, and a radio. And his parents say, "Look, quit complaining. Just do yourself a favor. Go to the blind meeting." Well, he goes there, and they're all complaining. It's an echo chamber of negativity. That isn't going to help. But he sits next to this woman named Kathy, and he said, "In the old days, I used to love to watch TV and somebody would throw a right hook, and now I can't see it. I wish somebody would do something." She gently nudges him, and here's the question of the day out of our book. Hey, wait a second. We're somebody. We can do something. Now, I define an entrepreneur as somebody who fixes a problem, scales it, and makes a vast profit, right? And that's what he did. He created with Kathy something you and I wouldn't know about because we're sighted, but narrative television. 14 million people pay $10 a month for the third biggest streaming service in the world. And then he wrote a book, and this is when I first met him, and Charlie Tremendous Jones said, "Look, I know you're selling 50 million books a year. You got no time to do this, but I need you to read this book, and you're my friend, so I beg you to do it." And I read it, and I said, "Wow, this is the best book I've read." It's called The Ultimate Gift. I wrote the foreword and the afterword, and I said, this book's got to be a movie. It's so clear. And if you haven't read The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall, I want everyone to read it. And you say, "Well, you're selling other people's books?" Of course, I sell anything that's really good and helpful. And anyhow, so we interview Stovall for our book, Ask, and he's nothing but pure wisdom. The guy is just pure wisdom. And he says, he said, "First of all, if I live 100 years, there'll never be a day I don't thank in my prayers you for changing my mind and mindset, Mark." But he said, "I now write books that I can't read, and I make movies." He made $100 million on a movie, and it's a great movie. You got to see it. You can see it on Netflix, called The Ultimate Gift, and you'll know all the stars. But he said, "I now make movies that I can't watch." And he said, except that COVID happened, I'm supposed to be one of the stars in one of the movies. Because I said, I got one of my crazy goals. Jim, I've never asked you for anything other than interviews. Can I be in your movie? He said, no, I wanted you to be in it, you and Crystal. And so, is that amazing, or is that amazing?
I love it. It's crazy.
Yeah, because
it's just a start. Yeah,
because we're here to have joy. And like, I'm 72 years young. Never call yourself old, because that disparages the soul. And I'm going to live to be 127 with options for renewal. And if you have a high quality of life, why wouldn't you want a high quality of life?
Options for renewal. I love it. Oh man, what a great conversation. I know we're coming up on the time. The book is called Ask, Go buy it on Amazon. We'll link it up for YouTube. We'll put it in the description below so you guys can one click get there. And if you want to join Mark's ongoing program, askthebookclub.com. It's free monthly sessions with him. Mark, appreciate the time, man. Best of luck on the book, and thanks for sharing your time with us today.
Thank you for doing all the great good you're doing. You're doing superb work. Thank you, sir.
I love it. Appreciate it. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.